Coming up on Arirang News, South Korean households have taken on a record high level of debt in the pandemic. At the end of last year, the total coming to $1.5 trillion, an increase of 8%. Loans rising for home purchases, buying stocks, and just paying the bills. Hyundai Motor unveils its newest electric car, the IONIQ 5. It's the first model to be equipped with Hyundai's own EV platform and can go for more than 500 kilometers on a single charge. And the South Korean military gives a detailed explanation of how a North Korean man last week was able to elude the border guards, cross into the south, and go undetected for hours. It's 5 o'clock p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff have released the results of their investigation into how a North Korean man was able to go undetected for hours last week after crossing into South Korea through one of the most heavily guarded places on the planet. He was spotted by cameras 10 times, but it seems the soldiers in charge of watching the cameras were not following procedure. Kim Ji-yeon has this report.
The North Korean man who was captured near the inter-Korean border last week was caught on South Korean military surveillance cameras 10 times, but soldiers still failed to notice him. According to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, the man reached the shore near the Unification Observatory in Kosong at around 1:05 a.m. last Tuesday. He then passed through a hidden drainage tunnel under the heavily fortified border fence. At around 1:40 a.m., the man started moving south, going some 5 kilometers along the country's east coast. He did all this undetected until at around 4:12 a.m., when the military CCTV cameras spotted him, and again at around 4:16 a.m. he was seen by a guard at the civilian control line through CCTV some 330 meters north of the Chejin checkpoint. The man was spotted once again at around 4:18 a.m. going eastwards over the guardrails towards the sea. After a 3-hour manhunt, the man was finally captured by the military at around 7:27 a.m. The Joint Chiefs said the man swam from North Korea towards the south. It revealed that he is presumed to have been wearing a thick padded coat inside the diving suit, which covered his whole body except for his face. The military unit was unaware of the presence of the drainage tunnel that's now presumed to have been used by the intruder.
The Joint Chiefs of Staff will conduct a comprehensive investigation of the waterways under the border's barbed wire fences and come up with follow-up measures. It'll also seek improvements in the operation of the border surveillance system.
The military also found fault in the unit for failing to take appropriate action after the alert systems had detected human movement. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Iran is claiming to have reached a deal with South Korea for Seoul to release at least some of Iran's assets frozen under U.S. sanctions. That's according to the Iranian side, which says it wants the money to buy supplies to fight COVID-19 and that the amount to be released is in the billions of dollars. South Korea has not confirmed those claims, but says it will need to consult with certain countries first, including the U.S. Yoon Jung-min reports.
Regarding Iran's claims they reached an agreement with Seoul over frozen assets, South Korea's Foreign Affairs Ministry said it needs to consult with the U.S. and other related countries to clear technical issues when sending the money. It added that Tehran agreed on proposals by Seoul during a meeting between the South Korean ambassador to Iran, Yoo Jong-hyun, and Iran's central bank governor, Abdul Nasser Hemmadi, on Monday. Iran's central bank said on Monday that it had reached an agreement with South Korea to unfreeze Iranian assets in South Korean banks after weeks of intense negotiations. It said specific destinations and the amounts were determined. According to the report, Yoo said the South Korean government was ready to take any measures to free all the frozen assets without cap or limitations. While welcoming the agreement, Tehran reportedly said it would seek damages from South Korean banks over non-cooperation in recent years. Following the imposition of U.S. sanctions on Tehran, Iranian assets worth around $7 billion were frozen in South Korean banks. In January, Iran seized a South Korean-flagged vessel in the Persian Gulf, citing alleged environment pollution. It denied any link between the seizure and the asset issue, but has constantly complained about the frozen assets. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
And the latest on COVID-19, South Korea reported 357 new cases on Tuesday, the second day the figure's been back down in the 300s. Of the new cases, 330 were local and 27 were from overseas. There were 11 more deaths, bringing the death toll to 1,573. South Korea's total cases to date have now surpassed 87,000. As cluster infections continue, Prime Minister Jung Se-kyun has warned businesses that if they do not follow the distancing guidelines, then they will not be eligible to receive the fourth round of relief funds. South Korea's household debt rose to an all-time high as of the end of 2020. People have been borrowing more to buy homes, but also in the pandemic to pay their bills. A significant portion of loans were taken out to buy stocks as well. Ji-young has more.
South Korea's household debt, which includes credit card purchases and loans, reached an all-time high at the end of last year. According to the Bank of Korea on Tuesday, the country's household debt as of December 2020 stood at around 1.55 trillion US dollars. That's up by roughly 3% or $40 billion from the previous quarter and is the third biggest quarterly increase on record. It was also up roughly $113 billion, around 8% on year, after rising for 5 quarters in a row. Loans from banks and financial institutions rose by about $40 billion from October to December last year compared to the quarter before, a record quarterly increase.
Due to the increase in house purchases, more mortgage loans have been taken out compared to the previous quarter. Other debts also rose significantly on quarter as more people took out loans for living and buying stocks.
Amid the overheated housing market, mortgage loans rose by about $18 billion in the fourth quarter compared to the same period last year, which is the largest quarterly increase since 2016. An expert says household debt is projected to get larger amid the economic crisis caused by the pandemic.
Many households need money for everyday life as they are going through difficulties. As the government is regulating the loans at formal institutions, loans taken out from the illegal money market are expected to increase.
He added that in order to reduce the demand for loans, more quality jobs need to be created. Ji-young, Arirang News.
Hyundai Motor Company has revealed its new electric car model, the IONIQ 5. It was unveiled this afternoon on Hyundai's official YouTube channel. The IONIQ 5 is known to be able to go more than 500 kilometers on a single charge and can be charged to 80% of capacity in less than 20 minutes. This is the first model to use Hyundai's own EV platform. The company says parts of the car's seats, doors, and dashboard use eco-friendly materials made from recycled plastic bottles. Hyundai is expected to expand its electric car line this year amid rapid growth in the eco-friendly car market. Now, a roundup of some major stories in the global economy. The price of Bitcoin plunged on Monday after hitting a new all-time high. In the U.S., data point to an improvement in the economy this year, and President Biden's announced that for the next 2 weeks, coronavirus loans for small businesses will only be given to those with fewer than 20 employees. Seoul reports.
Bitcoin plunged as much as 17% on Monday. At one point, the digital asset briefly dropped below the $50,000 level, falling as low as $47,700. On Saturday local time, Elon Musk tweeted his concerns that the price has risen too high and too quickly. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen also warned on Monday that the digital token is a highly speculated asset and she is worried about investors losing their money. Bitcoin's price broke above $50,000 for the first time on February 16th. The cryptocurrency was up more than 60% in February alone, and its price has gained roughly 350% during the past 6 months. The Conference Board Leading Economy Index for the U.S. rose 0.5% in January to 110.3. The figure follows a 0.9% increase in November and a 0.4% increase in December. January marks the ninth straight monthly rise for the index. The conference board stated that it expects the U.S. economic growth to gradually improve over the first half of 2021. U.S. President Joe Biden on Monday local time announced changes to the U.S. coronavirus aid program for small businesses in an effort to reach smaller and minor-owned firms. For 2 weeks beginning on February 24th, the aid program will only accept loan applications from firms with fewer than 20 employees. The program also plans to set aside $1 billion to direct towards business owners with employees such as home contractors, which are majority owned by women and people of color. 서은경, 아리랑 뉴스.
Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon. And for that, I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, global strategist at UNVEILS Securities. Mr. Yu, thanks for coming on today.
Good afternoon.
Well, stocks on Wall Street closed lower for the most part. The big growth stocks taking a hit in particular with these rising fears of inflation. The Dow eked out a gain, but the Nasdaq sharply lower. And in Korea, the Kospi rose back into positive territory in the afternoon, but closed lower as well. What's the story in the global markets and here in Korea?
Yes, with the interest rate environment going up, as you can see, the 10-year Treasury yield for U.S. has risen to well above 1.3%. And that seems to cause some concern about investing into the growth stock, particularly the Nasdaq. If you look at the Dow Jones, it added about 0.1% yesterday, but in contrast, S&P 500 was down by about 0.8%, and Nasdaq actually plunged by 2.5%. Clearly, a lot of the growth sector, including semiconductor and the alternative energies, all suffered quite significantly, those ones that were performed very well in the past 6 months. Once again, clearly the concern is what's happening to the interest rate environment. And that interest rate has risen from around 0.5% 6 months ago, now well above to 1.36%. And that causes concern because higher the interest rate environment, the expectation about the growth stock goes down. And the higher the interest rate environment actually lowers the fair price of a lot of the stocks. And this seems to be actually affecting not just the U.S. market, but the Asian market as well. And the Kospi also was down quite significantly yesterday. And today it's down slightly by about 0.3%, and Kosdaq is down by about 1.85%.
And Bitcoin today, in terms of dollars, is down 12 or more percent from where it was yesterday. Elon Musk tweeted a few days ago that he thinks the price of Bitcoin is high, and it seems there were enough people out there who agreed with him. What do you make of the Bitcoin situation?
Right. I think that we got to look at Bitcoin situation as how you want to compare that with the gold rather than comparing with any other equity market. If you look at the overall alternative assets other than the currency, we look at usually gold, silver, and the Bitcoin. The main reason for that is because if you look at the money supply growth rate, particularly M1 growth rate, U.S. is around 67%, Korea is around 25%. Globally, most of the central banks are printing money. And because of that, if you hold on to cash, the value of the cash goes down quite significantly over the period. So this is the reason why the people are interested into investing into alternative assets, including gold and silver and Bitcoins. But right now, a lot of people are looking at the Bitcoins because Bitcoins are now widely used for the settlement for any kind of transaction. And some of the entities, including the corporation and the payment guarantee corporations or the banks, are actually allowing Bitcoin transaction. And this is causing the Bitcoin becoming a bit of a internet gold rather than actually holding actual gold. So this is causing the sharp rise of the Bitcoin prices. But right now, with, as you said, the Elon Musk is saying that the price is being a bit expensive, and the gold prices were down quite significantly. So they think that it's rather to hold on to the gold, which has been a very historic kind of alternative asset in the last 6,000 years. So that's the main reasons that there's a struggle happening between real gold versus the electronic gold. And in terms of the trend, as long as the liquidity injection by the central bank continues, we think that the interest in gold as well as Bitcoin will continue in the future.
And they continue to say that it will continue, Mr. Yu. Well, we'll have to leave it there for today. Thanks so much for sharing your insights with us, as always.
Thank you very much.
And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.